You were a minister in Modi 2.0. You are now a minister in Modi 3.0. What is the difference in the two governments, and where do you see Modi 3.0 going?
So first of all, thank you for having me, Vandita and Rishiraj. It's wonderful to be here at this event, especially as the weather is turning. Also, it's always great to be back at an Express event, an institution with which I have not only a professional relationship, but also a very long family relationship. So it's wonderful to be back here. To your question, I think the difference, well, first of all, let me say this, that Modi 2.0 is a continuum. Modi 3.0 is a continuum of Modi 1.0 and Modi 2.0. Now, if you're asking me what is the delta and what the change is, the only change and the only delta is that it's got to be, as Prime Minister has said to all of us, 3 times more mehnat, 3 times more Shakti, and 3 times more result. Every government of his has been a outcome-driven government, has been a service-driven government. And when India has returned for the first time in independence, apart from just immediately after independence when a government had 3 terms, but that was primarily because there was no opposition in place. But in a very fiercely competitive landscape, where the first time in history a government has been returned by the people, for the people, of the people, for the 3rd time, to have that as an outlook with the final goal that is in mind, which is to make sure that Bharat is an Atmanirbhar Bharat, Bharat is a Viksit Bharat, and Bharat is a Vishwa Guru Bharat. That is the ultimate aim, and we are progressing down that route in a very, very rapid and exponential manner.
The telecommunication ministers have so far been high profile and also controversial. I mean, you are neither controversial, that goes to your credit, but you're also not high profile. You've been keeping a pretty low profile. Why is that? Is that deliberate?
No, I have always, Vandita, believed in life that actions should speak louder than words. They used to say of my father that he wasn't a very successful politician because he didn't think like a politician. He didn't act like a politician. And he was not high profile. I think that defines a very successful public servant. And that's what my father was. The same is the case with my grandmother. And I'm glad, in a way, if you're saying that, I'm thankful to you, but I'm glad maybe in a way that those are genes that I've inherited. And I believe my work should speak for me, and not necessarily my profile, and not necessarily how much I'm in the news or how I'm not. My results should speak for me. When you're in school or you're working in a professional environment, it's either your report card or your 360-degree feedback, or in government, your CR, that counts for much more than what you may profess to have achieved. And I believe that the same should hold good for me. I believe in hard work. I believe in making sure that I don't sleep without clearing my table, so that I wake up to an empty desk in the morning. I believe in, slightly philosophical, but I believe in karma. And I believe you must do your best every single day and leave the rest to a higher power. And I live by that, by those values. So, yes, I'm not necessarily controversial. I think controversy will keep you in the news for a day or two at best in this environment, which has changed a lot in the last 20, 30 days. But I think that if you're at the crease and you bat a long innings and you do good, that's remembered more.
Mr. Scindia, you have very nicely put it. That's why I think I will come back. I'll connect the two, what you have just now said. The ministry where you are right now, you have served earlier also in this ministry as an MOS. So what has changed in terms of working in that government at that point of time in the same ministry, now in this government, as well what has changed in the entire telecom scenario from then to now?
So, Rishraji, I'm going to take your second question first. The whole world has changed. The whole world has changed. We didn't have many of these around. Today, we can't live our lives without this. And I say this half jokingly, but I do say this. I think, in a way, technology is important, it's great, and it's become a huge multiplier, especially for us in India, leave the rest of the world. But I do believe that some level of innocence also gets lost in the process. And I think it's important in life to be able to also balance that. In terms of what's changed, I think what the telecom revolution has done in the last decade under Prime Minister's leadership is that it has completely disintermediated the intermediary. So there's a world out there that needs new ideas, innovation, products. And there is a population that has all the capability to produce it. But like an hourglass, there is a fulcrum in between that squeezes and disintermediates both of these. Telecom and IT has completely blasted away that speed breaker and has connected the creators of the new innovations with the opportunities that lie before them. If you've seen the revolution that India has gone through in the last decade, it's no less than astounding. We had 900 million mobile connections in 2014. We have close to about 1.17 billion today. We had 250 million internet connections, which I talk about less than 1 GB. We have 950 million internet connections. Broadband, greater than 2 GB. We had close to about 60 million. We have 924 million today. And if you look at the converse side of that, which is the cost structure, voice would cost you 51 paise per minute in 2014. Voice costs you 3 paise today. Data would cost you close to about 280 bucks per GB. Today, data costs you 8.8 bucks per GB. So whereas penetration has proliferated, the cost of service has gone down by 95% to 97%. And that has led to this huge explosion in India. And now with technology being manufactured by India, again thanks to Prime Minister's resolve that India will develop its own 4G stack. In 19 months, we developed between CDOT, which is a government-owned PSU, and Tejas, which is a private sector company, with TCS as a system integrator. We developed our own core, our own radio access network, which is the towers and the BTSs, the base transceiver stations that you see on top of them. I'm rolling it out as we speak. And we've rolled out close to about 40,000 base stations. My target is 1 lakh by June of next year. We will have our own domestic stack. It's already up. We'll have our own domestic stack up and full service by BSNL on 4G by June of next year. We'll also have 4G saturation across the country. We've got close to about 650,000 villages in India. Give or take, we've got about 617,000 villages that have connectivity today. There are 37,000 villages that are left out. We'll roll out all the towers in those villages, at roughly about 25,000 towers by May of next year. So the revolution that is taking place in telecom is mind-boggling. And for the first time, we are not followers of a given technology. We will be setting the trend. After having our own 4G stack, switching that 4G stack to 5G, we will start doing that by April, May of next year. We've also put in place the Bharat 6G Alliance, which will set the standards for 6G. So just to explain to all our viewers, and I was agnostic of this before I became minister as well, before a technology is promulgated, the standards are set by ITU and 3GPP, the International Telecom Union. So before 2G came in, the standards are set for 2G, so that it's universal across the world. Before 3G came in, the standards are set. So we're right now in the mode of setting the standards for 6G worldwide. India's never been a part of this. We want a part of it in 2G, 3G, 4G, 5G. For the first time, Bharat 6G Alliance has been set up almost a year and a half, 2 years ago. We've introduced papers in the ITU and the 3GPP, which have been accepted. For the first time in the history of India, Bharat 5I has come in, which is to extend connectivity to rural India, which has been accepted as a standard in the world body. So India is now there in the standard setting. Our goal is to set 10% of the patents for 6G. So we will be setting the trend. And which is why I say that we followed the world in 4G, we marched with the world in 5G, but we will lead the world in 6G.
Yes, that's very nicely put. But in this whole revolution, in this whole growth, in 6G, where we are part of the standardization setting mechanism, but somehow in this whole revolution, our PSU telecom operators have missed the bus, it seems. If we look BSNL, it has always been weak. Of course, there have been attempts to put it on track. MTNL has been recent in news for defaulting on its loans with State Bank of India, PSU, basically bank marking its account as NPA. So 92% of market share is with private operators today. It's MTNL, BSNL together, it's about 8% back. So do we really need them? That is my first question. Do we really need them? Will they be able to at all compete with them in today's, because they are anyway running behind? Meaning BSNL is now starting 4G when others have moved to 5G. Or is there an alternative plan? You were earlier in Civil Aviation Ministry, where something like what we did for Air India, something similar can be done with these PSU firms in the telecom sector.
So thank you for that question. I think it's an important question. And the key issue is that as a democracy and as a country that is forward-looking, as a country that aims to be a global leader, as a country that aims to be a Vishwa Bandhu or a Vishwa Bharat by 2047, what is extremely important is to be able to provide the ubiquity of opportunity to every single citizen in our country. That's 140 crore people, which will go to about 160 crore before population stabilizes in our country. And even today, it is only BSNL that is reaching the last village in our country in terms of telecom service. It is only BSNL that is providing that ubiquity of opportunity. And that ubiquity of opportunity is not only in terms of the instrument that you have in your hand, but in that instrument, that's only a carriageway. That's only a highway. That carriageway and highway enables and carries millions of opportunities your way. And let me give you an example of that. As donor minister right now, I released a portal, a NERAS portal in the Northeast for our agrarian sector and our SHGs, linking farmers directly to markets. on your mobile, on your computer. And I put a what I thought was not necessarily a modest target. It wasn't a aggressive target, but it certainly was not a modest target. I said we should try and achieve 1 crore of sales within, let's say, 3 months. In 3 months, that portal alone has consolidated over 8,000 farmers, and we've achieved already 1.5 to 2 crore of sales between the computers and the handheld devices. Now, that's the kind of opportunity that this is giving to my farmer in the back of beyond to connect with domestic markets as well as international markets. That is only provided at the last mile through BSNL today. And let me tell you, Rishiraj, I really believe that BSNL has tremendous capabilities. Our family, I wouldn't want to use the word employees, our family, because for me, my department post Dakia is my family. My BSNL worker is my family, has tremendous potential. It just needs to be triggered. You said that we are behind the curve. Yes, we are behind the curve. But we are intentionally behind the curve. And why is that? Because we chose the hard way. I'm not saying that Vandita ji chose the easy way or X chose the easy way. But it's very easy to take someone else's equipment and set it up and carry your network. And I completely understand it. Because your business is not to manufacture the equipment. Your business is to provide the service. And therefore, you will take whatever's available. BSNL chose the hard route. BSNL said, we will be Atmanirbhar in our equipment. We will make Bharatiya equipment, and on that Bharatiya equipment, we will provide 4G to every single customer across our country. Not an easy decision. Not an easy route to take. Unproven. But it was a gamble. But let me dare say that that gamble has worked. Because today 4G, our domestic 4G is a proven technology. And to move from 4G to 5G is not going to be that difficult. Yes, we are catching up today, but we hope to lead tomorrow. In terms of financials, yes, BSNL was bleeding, but the last 2 years we've had a positive EBITDA. So we are not in the red on EBITDA. We have a positive EBITDA. And as far as MTNL is concerned, the operations have been taken over by BSNL, and the loans are guaranteed by Government of India. So no bank has to worry with regard to NPA, because there's a sovereign guarantee from Government of India on that. So we need to be positive. Our PSUs are hitting Fortune 500 company standards. Our PSUs today are leading the world. And I do hope, I can't guarantee you, but I do hope that BSNL in the days to come, just as it is in the last 3 months, we have added subscribers every single month in the last 3 months. I don't want to take companies' names because I am not Minister of BSNL. I am Minister of Communications. So for me, whether you're BSNL or X, Y, or Z, are equally important to me. But I'm proud to say that subscribers have ported through MNP, mobile number portability. They have ported from other telcos to BSNL in the last 3 months. So our subscriber base has grown, and not by 10,000 or 50,000, close to 50 to 60 lakhs. Now the challenge is, are you going to be able to retain your customers? So the first challenge for any company is customer acquisition. The second and more difficult challenge is customer retention. And the third challenge is customer satisfaction. So BSNL has been able to do the first. Now it has to concentrate on the second and the third. And therefore, it has to serve its customers, it has to raise its customer sat, and it has to provide new value. Which is why yesterday, you must have read, we inaugurated 7 new services by BSNL, which have not been done before. You were talking about being behind the curve. We've introduced 5G for captive mining as a test case, where through your phones, your mobiles, you will control the heavy JCB and excavators that go into a mine on a BSNL network. On a BSNL network, you have many value-added services that we've introduced yesterday. So BSNL today is going to be at the forefront and not a follower in the days to come.
Northeast and connectivity, I would like to bring in the satellite connectivity issue, because obviously it is for far-flung, remote, hilly, those terrain where terrestrial network doesn't reach, and Northeast is also one of those regions. There are regions over there. Sure. And a lot of thing was done by the government towards that, and in the Telecom Act, that spectrum for this will be allocated through administrative mechanism, of course with cost, not through auctions, by putting it in Schedule 1 of the Telecom Act. But suddenly these noises by the industry groups, that there's particular companies and all, etc., I won't name them, that it should be through auction. Of course, you stood your ground, you said, no, it will not be without cost, but it will be through administrative mechanism, because nowhere in the world it's done through auctions. Your stand was appreciated by Elon Musk, who thanked you. So do you feel that, these are just irritants which obviously certain lobby groups always do in telecom sector to derail whenever the things are going fine? Is it that kind of, how do you think you will tackle this particular dissonance which has come at this point of time?
With confidence.
You will go ahead with the administrative mechanism. There's no question.
I am repeating, with confidence. If your conscience is clear, your heart is in the right place, take the most difficult decision.
That's a perfect, that's a very nice stand which you have taken, because just at the time...
I believe in that.
Just at the time we thought that, the legacy issues have been resolved,
If you believe you're right and you have conviction and you have conviction and belief, stick your ground.
That's perfectly fine. But Mr. Scindia, if I can come to another issue, because everybody is a telecom user, revolution, everything is fine. BSNL, you spoke, all the targets and everything, and how they are in a way now ahead of the curve also. But there's one thing which is bothering everybody, disturbing everybody, including you, me, everybody, that is spam calls. The number of calls have increased, the data has...
Right, it's really a pain, isn't it?
So how do you tackle it? Personally, if you...
we're already tackling it. I'm so glad you asked me the question. So here's my hat, not as a minister, but as a customer and a consumer. It's really irritating when your phone is ringing all the time and it's all either marketing calls or spam calls. So here's what we've done. The first thing that we've done is 17th of October, DOT along with all the telcos have released a successful version of ensuring that we disengage spoof calls. So let me explain what that is. So you get a call on your mobile with a +91 number. And it's actually not a domestic call. It's an international company using an international server that's connecting, masquerading as a +91 call that's coming onto your phone. And the first thing that we've done with that software is that in the last, today is the 22nd, so in the last 5 days, we have stopped close to about 1.35 crore calls per day. 1.35 crore calls per day from going through. That means almost close to 7 crore calls have been blocked by the software. Number one. Number two, in terms of people who use the mobile phones for financial fraud or cyber crime, we've disconnected close to about 1.77 crore mobile numbers. And similarly, stolen mobiles, close to about 14 to 15 lakh mobile numbers. So this is a scourge. Technology brings with it exponential advantages, but it also gives an opportunity for people to misuse it. And that's where the regulatory system has to come in. So since the day I took over as minister, That's one of the things that I put in on my dashboard. Because as a consumer, like everyone else in this room or in this garden, was harassed. And we need to make sure that we stop this. And I will not stop until every single person stops getting harassed. Let me guarantee you that.
Okay, so we have Anand Goenka now joining us to do the famous rapid fire with the minister.
Oh God, you got someone training their guns on me. So Anant, you're going to
Yeah,
train
there
your
he
guns
is.
on me, huh?
My first one is a segue, is the right segue for. The one way in which royalty in India today, in the year 2024, is different from regular folk.
No different. Why should it be different? It's an egalitarian society.
Okay?
You're one
The-
among 140 crore.
Okay, perfect. The one monarchy outside India that you look up to.
I can't think of any. You ask me multiple leaders that I look up to, yes, but if you, and it doesn't have to be political, I can't think of any monarchy I look up to, no.
Okay?
I believe that's a thing of the past. I
Okay.
believe it's something you should certainly cherish and something that you're proud of, but it's something of the past.
Okay. The one moment or episode in your career that you are most proud of.
When I was able to, so I was in boarding school, Anant, and apart from academics and sports, the beauty of boarding school is that mandatorily you have to do some social, useful, productive work, which is called SUPW.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I did completely voluntarily in that ambit was I volunteered and I decided to teach my blind family member his B.Ed course. So I spent 6 months with him and I taught him his B.Ed course and he passed his B.Ed exam.
Wonderful. The one regret in your professional career.
No regrets. I believe that I don't have any regrets. I believe that you must face ups and downs of life with equanimity, with humility, and with patience. And you need to just ride the wave and go with the flow and try and make your mark with sheer dint of hard work and a sense of service.
Okay, what's that one magic with which over successive governments now Indore remains the cleanest city in India?
It's people.
How many functioning telecom operators will India have 5 years from now, if you were to take a guess?
I think you should have at least 4, which is much more than any other country has in the world. Now, which 4? That I can't answer you.
And one of them will be state.
Sorry?
One of them will be state-owned of the 4.
Yeah, I certainly think so. I mean, I've had a long discussion with Rishi Raj on that.
Yeah.
But there's always a turnover. For example, when my father opened up the skies in 1993, and you had, what, I think 8 or 10 airlines that came and set up in India. Not even one of them is existing today. But other airlines have come up. When I was civil aviation minister for 3.5 years, you only had 2 or 3 airlines in India. Now you have 8 or 9 airlines in India.
The future of the largely China manufactured smartphone is.
Over.
And what's the future of the MTNL employee?
And let me tell you that. Why? India imported 40,000 crores worth of mobile phones in 2014. Today, India manufactures 35 crore mobiles. India exports 1,29,000 crores worth of mobiles. We're the second largest mobile phone producer in the world today. It's India, India, India. So I would love for the Chinese to come and buy mobiles from India.
Okay, lovely. So I have I'll end with one last question. The future of the MTNL employee.
I think the future of the MTN employee is bright. I think options to either join BSNL, any one of the other telcos.
Dr. Sona Vikas of the Asian School of Business.
Good evening, sir. So I'm an educator and professor, and we have more than 3,200 students. We are dealing with a generation of youth which is too much addicted to the mobile phones. The screen time has increased, the attention spans have reduced. There are a lot of behavioral problems that have come up, and a lot of mental health issues also. So my question to you is that what are some of the key priorities of the government in channelizing this youth towards national building?
In channelizing?
The youth towards nation building or national development.
So I think that your precursor to your question doesn't have much connectivity with your root question, right? So you were talking about the issues with regard to the obsession with not necessarily telecom, but information through an instrument. And my only advice to you and through you to all your students and your wards would be that in life it's very important to maintain a balance. The relationships that you build in the classroom or outside the classroom by spending time with each other cannot be substituted by a WhatsApp message or an SMS that you send on the phone. Okay? I am the Telecom Minister, but I'm still advocating that there has to be a balance that you maintain in life. Difficult to do, because every time you see that light blinking, your hands itch to see, what is in that treasure box that's come to you. But nevertheless, that balance must be maintained. To your question on nation building, I think each individual in our country must have the belief that he and or she must contribute towards the concept of nation building. And every little, just to give you a Hindi analogy, त्योहार होता है या धार्मिक कार्यक्रम होता है तो हम यज्ञ करते हैं, और यज्ञ पंडित जी के द्वारा किया जाता है, और फिर अंत में जो लोग ने यज्ञ किया है पूजा पाठ के बाद हम लोग आहुति देते हैं. तो उस यज्ञ में, राष्ट्र के निर्माण के यज्ञ में 140 करोड़ एक एक नागरिक को अपनी आहुति देनी पड़ेगी, तभी वो यज्ञ सफल हो पाएगा.
Hi, I'm Ajasvi Gupta and I'm a journalist. So, sir, you come from a very strong academic background. I think you've done your graduation from Stephens, followed by abroad, Harvard and Stanford, if I'm not wrong. So, but also you come from a very rich heritage and a lineage, right? Which I'm sure would have been the pivot for you entering into politics. Otherwise, it's not every day that you leave, you look at somebody leaving a well-settled investment banker job in New York and, enter into politics. I think the BJP membership drive, it might be a step in the right direction for youth also to come into politics. But then again, the very basic narrative about politics still revolves around the idea of, backdoor deals and gloomy ideas are still revolving around politics, especially for the youth. So how do we change this narrative and say, how has the membership drive, maybe which has, been a step in the right direction, how has it impacted or maybe, kind of fostered the way ahead for youth in politics, for us to maybe have an idea of leaving an MBA and rather coming into politics. So what are your views on that?
So my only advice to you would be have a positive outlook in life. For all the gloomy narratives, the pessimistic outlooks, and how we all of us look at our netas, right? There are a lot of people in that group of 750 if you combine Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha. And probably, I don't know, Vandita Rishiraj, about 10,000-15,000 MLAs across the country. Yeah? Probably more Jila Panchayat Adhyakshas, Janpad Adhyakshas, Nagar Palika Adhyakshas. That are actually working from their heart and soul to contribute to this country. Right? It's very easy to paint everyone with one brush. But at that moment, don't forget that you're also dismissing all of those that are working with a true sense of purpose to build this country. And one shouldn't do that. One. Two, for the point that you made with regard to, and I'm going to put it in a more aggressive manner, for those from a privileged background and those from certain families that have entered into politics. What about for the rest? Again, it goes back to the point that Vandita started with. It's generally those sort of people that end up in her bracket of high profile. But those are the exceptions, let me tell you. In this milieu in India, there are hundreds and lakhs of people that have just decided that they want to do public service, and they don't come from privileged backgrounds. They don't have an easy segue into politics. They do it the hard way. My Minister of State in my department in Telecom, Mr. Chandrasekhar Pembasani, entrepreneur, made it on his own in the US, spent 20-25 years there, built a company with his own hands, bottom up, hugely successful, right? He's just given it all up to come back and contribute to India. He's today a member of parliament. He won the election. He's today a minister. No background of politics. And there are millions like that. So I'm going to go back to the point I made to someone else, that don't go from here. In life, if you get it from here, nothing can stop you.
How do you prioritize citizen engagement and feedback in your decision-making process? And this addresses the BSNL part also, where I feel customer satisfaction precedes the retention part, and also in your membership tribe, where the more the youth is joining, want to pursue politics as a method of reaching Jan Seva as opposed to a career. So addressing both the topics but through the same question, how do you prioritize citizen engagement and feedback?
So let me give you a couple of examples. So I think that the first thing that people have to understand, that in life, you don't have the solutions to all the problems in the world. And I think if you start with that premise, then you're starting on the right track. Which means what? Which means speak less, listen more. Difficult thing to do, especially in our profession, because we love the mic. Just can't get enough of it, right? Second, make sure that you have as wide a group that you can hear as possible. So, in every ministry that I've had the privilege of serving, I've always set up advisory groups, right? So whether it was commerce and industry, or it was power, or it was civil aviation, steel, now telecommunications and donor, where engagement with people who are stakeholders in that sector. And what is your role? Your role as a minister is not one of a regulator. Your role as a minister is not one of a boss. Your role as a minister is one of a facilitator and one of a public servant. And therefore, what do you have to do? You have to hear the pain points of people and resolve it. So today in the communications ministry, I have 6 stakeholder groups. Right from my ISPs, to my telecom service providers, to my OEMs, to my manufacturing companies, to even educational institutions and academia, because that's where a lot of innovation happens, right? What's the path forward for us? So that's one example for you. The second example for you is in civil aviation, and I'm trying to do the same now in telecom. I set up a public grievance mechanism system called Air Seva. And I don't know whether you guys have used it. It's at the back of your boarding pass. Every ticket, I mandated that it's got to be at the back of every boarding pass. And it's got to be announced on every flight, incoming or outgoing. And anyone who has a grievance can get onto that portal. And as minister, I would be monitoring that portal on a daily basis in terms of the number of grievances that have come in, the number of grievances that have been resolved. And there was a little tweak that I'd made. Initially, the resolution was done by the ministry officials. So I, as a customer, if I have complained, and Vandita Mishra ji is the officer in charge, she would respond to me and she would deem it as if she has satisfied me and say that this is closed. And I said, that's not good enough. I want that power of closing that file to be in the hands of the customer, not in Vandita ji's hands. So pursue the customer until he is fully or she is fully satisfied, and then only is the grievance closed. So that's the second example. And the third example for you is in my grassroots, in my constituency. So when you're chosen as a public representative, you're given a mandate for 5 years. And what should the blueprint be for 5 years? That blueprint should not be defined by you alone. It should be defined by the stakeholders within that constituency. And so in every district, I've set up that stakeholder group in terms of what should the blueprint and the path be for our area. And when you have that public advocacy and things come from the grassroots upwards, then you are able to solve people's problems much more effectively.
That question and that answer on citizen participation in decision making is a wonderful note to end the Adda on. Thank you, Minister, for giving us your time.